Welcome back to part three. Let's pick up where we took off. We were talking about the duration of unemployment, and we see that we could break down the unemployed by the time it takes them to find work. And in July 2012, you could see that most of the people, 40.7%, were unemployed for over 27 weeks. And when the economy improves, this is a number that should go down. But this gives you an idea of the stress being put on the economy with a persistently high unemployment rate. And this also puts into perspective the need to uh, lengthen the time people can collect unemployment benefits. Um, Before that was extended, 6 months was the maximum time one could collect unemployment. Well, when in 6 months, you're talking 24 weeks, right? And you're talking about uh, 54% of the unemployed people who were unemployed beyond that. So that extension was needed, terribly needed. Now, what we're going to do is there's different types of unemployment. And one way of thinking about the different types of unemployment is think about the old Western that Clint Eastwood started in called The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. And in this case, we're not going to call we're not going to call it the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to call it the good, the bad, and the neutral. So there are unemployed there is a type of unemployment that is good for the economy. And there's a type of unemployment that is neither good nor bad, it's neutral. And then there's a type of unemployment that is considered to be bad for the economy. So let's ponder that for a second. If there's a type of unemployment that is considered to be good and or neutral, that means it is unwise to have a goal to have a 0% unemployment rate. Because if you have a 0% unemployment rate, that means you eliminate all unemployment, the good, the bad, and the neutral. We just want to eliminate the bad type of unemployment. So there is a positive level of unemployment that is tolerable for any economy. So let's talk about some of these different types of unemployment. Now, you could see that are different reasons for joblessness. Some people leave their jobs voluntarily, and this, in some cases, should be encouraged if they find a job that's a better fit with their skill set. That actually enhances efficiency in the economy. Then there are people who get laid off. And these are the type of people who we want to help. And there are some people who come back into the labor force after leaving. And there are some people who come in the labor force for the very first time. Let's say somebody who finishes college, went to college straight out of high school, leaves college, they come looking for a job, they are a new entrant. And when you want to break down the unemployed by these categories, you could see most of the people who lost their job in July 2012, um, as of July 2012, were people who were laid off, and that was 56% of the population. Now, when we talk about the accuracy of the unemployment rate, we have to take into account that sometimes the unemployment rate does not account for certain things, which leads to inaccuracies. For example, there's a type of worker we call the underemployed worker. This is a person who wants to work full time, but the best that they can do is part time. Now, as part of the unemployment rate, it just shows that they have a job. And so this could lead people to believe that the economy is doing better than it really is. If everybody wants full-time work and the only thing they can get is part-time work, well, that's not exactly a strong economy. Then there's the phantom worker. This is somebody who pretends to be looking for work, but they're not really looking for work. And so therefore they shouldn't be even be counted as part of the labor force because they're not actively seeking work. Then there's a person who wants to work, but they have unrealistic expectations. Let's say that the minimum they would accept a job offer in terms of an hourly wage is, say, $60 an hour. Well, if they do not have the skill set that is going to demand or allow them to get that higher wage, their wage demands are unrealistic. Therefore, that's one of the reasons why they're unemployed. Then there's the underground worker. These are people who are working, but they're working under the table. Think about illegal immigration. A lot of the people who come into the country illegally, they are not working. They are being paid in cash under the table, and they're not part of the labor statistics. And then this is the most important one, the discouraged worker. This is somebody who is looking for work, but the job search takes too long, too difficult, and they simply stop looking. Now, the one of the reasons why this causes a underestimation of the unemployment rate is when they stop looking for work, we stop counting them, and when we stop counting them, the unemployment rate drops, and that's therefore it is underestimating the unemployment rate. But when the economy picks up, the discouraged workers could come back into the labor force. And when they come into the labor force, they come unemployed, and therefore the unemployment rate could pick up. But it's really causing an overestimation of the unemployment rate because the economy is doing much better than it would seem. So we talked about this. We talked about this. So let's just move on to um, let's talk about the unemployed, the discouraged worker again. And like I told you before, this can affect the numerator and denominator of the unemployment calculation. Remember, it's the unemployed workers divided by the labor force. Well, when somebody leaves the labor force as a discouraged worker, this affects both the numerator, the number of unemployed, and the denominator, the labor force. Let's take a look at this. For example, let's take a look at the possibility of 500,000 workers becoming discouraged and they drop out of the labor force. So the unemployment rate is the unemployed workers divided by the labor force. Well, this is before they drop out. 6.742 million unemployed, 141.8 labor force. That gives us an unemployment rate of 4.75%. Then the 500,000 workers are leave. And notice how this 6.242 is 500,000 less than this. This labor force is 500,000 less. Now, if we do the calculation again, look, the unemployment rate has fallen. But does that really mean that the economy is doing better? No, actually, the unemployment rate, the economy is doing worse. So you could see how discouraged workers can cause a underestimation of the unemployment rate. So let's talk about international comparisons of unemployment rates. Now, keep in mind, the way the United States measures unemployment is different the way that France measures unemployment. So to make a comparison can be difficult. What you would have to do is you would have to go to a statistical agency that takes into account the differences in how an indicator is measured and adjusts them to make them comparable, to make a more of an apples to apples comparison. And one agency that does that is the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. And this is where I got this data to make these comparisons. So you could see that in 2012, this is the green bar. You could see that we measuring it from the lowest unemployment rate, Norway, to the highest unemployment rate in Spain, and this is just amazing. You're talking about almost a 25% unemployment rate. Now, keep in mind, during the Great Depression in the United States, the unemployment rate peaked at about 24%. So Spain is experiencing unemployment rates equivalent to the Great Depression in the United States in the 1930s. And you can see the United States is kind of in the middle of the pack. Um, this rate is falling. It's down to about 7. So right now, the unemployment rate in the United States is right about here. But you can see quite a few countries have unemployment rates at or above 10%. Uh, and that's quite important to know. So let's talk about the different types of unemployment. I told you to categorize them as the good, the bad, and the neutral. Well, one type of unemployment is seasonal unemployment. And this is neutral in terms of it's neither good nor bad. It's just the way things are in terms of your nature of work. Let's say you work on a crab boat. Well, you're going to be unemployed for part of the season, and that's just the nature of your employment. Another type of unemployment is frictional. Now, this is the good type of unemployment. This is the type of unemployment where people voluntarily leave their job to get a better fit of job requirements to job skill set. And we want to encourage this because this increases efficiency. Now, another type of unemployment is structural. This type of unemployment is considered to be a bad type of unemployment because this means people cannot find work because they do not have the skills that are being advertised for job openings. This can be fixed with training and education. Now, another bad type of unemployment, the worst, is cyclical. This is the type of unemployment that there's just not enough jobs out there. This is the type of unemployment that is typical for a recession. Okay, so this is we're going to leave it off right here. Then we're going to pick it up with part 4 after this.